Are you looking for ways to address racism here in America but have no idea where to start? Today we're having that very crucial conversation on this episode of Coffee with Tea.
Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of Coffee with Tea. I'm excited because I get to check in on a couple of my favorite guests when we do some updates. And today I have Mr. Quintin Dukes. You've met him in a couple of seasons, and I'm not going to put out the wrong information, but yes, he is in there. I will drop in all his episodes, and we're going to talk about some issues that are near and dear to him. So without further ado, I like to bring on Mr. Quintin Dukes. Welcome back, sir.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure to have you on. And I always like to ask, what's been going on with you? How's everything with the COVID-19 and everything that's been going on in your world?
You know what? Much hasn't changed. You're taking it one day at a time. I work with the public, so you make sure that you protect yourself and things like that. But it's business as usual for me.
Well, for those who don't know, you're in the healthcare industry. So what is it that you you got your degree and stuff like that. So where are you in this process of dealing with the reopening and everything like that? How's that been going?
Well, here's the thing. So we haven't spoken in a while, but I work in the retail space now.
Okay.
And so they were closed for about a month and then they reopened. And the place that I work for right now, not to tell too much of their business, but it's a very top-down organization. So with a lot of organizations, things could be can be seen as a bit reactive. And so people have just been figuring out things as they go when it comes to COVID and how to handle it, what would be best practices moving forward in order to keep everybody safe. And so you just never really know. I think things have definitely leveled out, at this point. But, as cases continue to rise, as what we've seen even in the state of Ohio, you know, I'm pretty sure more is to come with how that needs to be handled.
Right. Yeah, I know this cold and flu season, I know it's going to throw a little divot in our plans, but hey, you gotta go with the
Mhm.
flow, right? So
That's it. That's the most that you can do, especially when you're not in the position to be able to call the shots, so to speak. You just essentially have to go with the flow. That's simple.
right. So I know I've watched some of your journey unfold on Instagram. That's where I see a lot of your great content and stuff like that. And
Hmm.
I know we hop on to connect and stuff like that, but I know there's some near and dear topics that's really been on your heart, and we were just about to dive into it a little bit before we hit the record button. I was like, hold up, say that for the camera, so we can continue on. What's been going on with you? What's been on your heart?
Well, most recently, I will say this. It's been me personally, what I've been thinking about is just the value of Black bodies within the corporate space. And of course, people are like, well, what kind of sparked this, interest that you have? And I've always had this interest. But I think, I'm originally from Rochester, New York. And if listened to the news, there was o- I believe I want to say older gentleman. His name was Daniel Prude, and he was essentially killed by the cops. He was killed by Rochester Police Department, and I watched the video several times, and it made me upset. It made me upset because I used to work in the behavior health field, and when the original call was from a family member, and it was regarding his mental health state. And so all this stuff started to swirl around in my head. And I hear people say, well, police officers, they're not well equipped to handle, behavior health or mental health calls or issues. And so I say that may be true. But here's the thing that troubled me is that they had so many options. When I watched it, they had this man laying on the ground, handcuffed, no clothes on. It's cold outside. And I'm like, the most you could have done was give this man a blanket or help him put some clothes on, put him in the car, and wait until your supervisor comes out there. But somewhere in the chain of command, you want to know what they could have done? they could have called the University of Rochester Medical Center, which is my alma mater. They do behavioral health arrests. And so working in the behavioral health field, I had a patient one time where we had to call the University of Rochester and they performed a mental health arrest. That's all they had to do. That is literally all they had to do. And I think the part that hurt me the most is that you can hear them laughing, like as if this is a joke, because you see a man on the ground with no clothes on. He's blurting out these things because he's experiencing psychosis, and you find this to be funny. So then it winds up that he has passed away. It took a very long time for it to surface within, this to hit pretty much make the news and hit the media outlets. I think it was about 2 to 3 months that had passed before this actually came to surface. And then, you had to go through the typical rigmarole of what we're seeing now, where like even with the Breonna Taylor case and so on and so forth, as we give more and more pushback, then there's a camera, there's camera footage, or there's this new development, or there's this new report or whatever. Why is the justice system hiding stuff? Why can't they be transparent? But most importantly, going back to the central part of where I'm trying to get at is that why is it that America does not see the value in Black bodies that they do in white bodies? Because when I was in healthcare, one of the projects that I was working on, people want to say, well, cops are not trained to handle mental health. But guess what? Just a couple of years ago, we had the opioid epidemic, and you would have overdoses. And in order to bring the person out of that state of being, having an overdose and saving them from not dying, you had to administer Narcan. Do you not know how many service workers, police officers, firefighters, all these people, they went out their way to learn how to administer Narcan?
Right.
I would think that would be more of a taxing, experience than to learn how to navigate the system so you can call in the professionals in order to handle something as psychosis. The only difference is that when there was the opioid epidemic, there were a lot of white people who were losing their lives. Whereas what you see, what's going on, what's been in the mainstream media is a lot of Black bodies being killed for no reason. And all we get are excuses. We didn't know how to handle this. We were ill prepared. Do you get it? I can't go to work and be ill prepared. I can give that excuse, but I'm still going to get written up. I still can run the possibility of getting fired. And I'm not going to get fired. I'm not going to be placed on leave with pay. They're going to be like, okay, it's been nice. Thank you for your time. Give me your badge. Give me your keys, and I will see you later. So this has been something that has pushed me to the forefront of things, of like being able to say, hey, we need to call attention to this, And I've also done a lot of research. I still have a lot of research to do. I remember when I was back in Rochester, this piqued my interest, and I had a chance to speak to older adults, both people of color and white people, about certain things. And it all revolved around systemic racism, and the where we are now, it's important to know that there is a pathology, meaning it started somewhere. And this is why we started where it was, and this is where we're at right now.
Right.
And so that's been it. I know that could be a lot, but that's where I've been at mentally.
Well, no, like I said, I like the fact that we can actually talk about some of these things, because I've always learned from the military, if you're not a part of if you're not offering up some kind of solution, you're part of the problem. So if we keep silently not talking about this, which we've been doing for years, we keep feeding into this, to the systemic racism, or the problem. We're not addressing any of the issues, and I know a lot of the times don't let me get started, but we address some of the what do you call it, the stuff on top, but we're not diving down deep. So I mean,
I'm glad you
we're
said
treating
that.
the system, what I'm trying to say, we're treating the symptoms, but we're not addressing the root cause. And I think what I'm hopeful in, and what I'm seeing is, yeah, it's ugly, but this is how it all gets started, because you gotta open up the wound. You gotta get it
Mm-hmm.
out there, so we can start pouring in. It goes into where it needs to go. So I mean, as ugly as we want to see it, in a way, I found, and I'm not trying to take anything away from you. This is just a conversation, because I'm a Black woman too, so it affects me as
Listen, we just listen. It's a no judgment zone. We express ourselves. I don't
well.
take anything personally or anything like that. So no, definitely, definitely. Let's go there. Let's talk about it.
But like what I wanted to say though, and I think about some of the stuff that we see, and I tell my husband a lot that we can't expect people to understand our where we're at because they've never experienced it. So it's like you're
Mm-hmm.
talking
Mm-hmm.
to um a wall because they never experienced it. So just the fact that people are starting to get out there, and it's starting to wake people up, I'm hopeful in that. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's where we don't want to take the light off. We don't want to take the shine off. We want to keep the heat on, because
Mm-hmm.
where there's heat, you get fire. You start fire and you burn
Right.
up all that
Right. Right.
stuff. So, it looks ugly, but I think there can be progress in this. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's where I get my hope from. I don't know, where do you like look? I mean, and you're a very intelligent man, so where do you say we should focus some of our resources or our energy in if we want to really get down deep? Where do you think we should begin with this?
Here's where this is my and I know this may be an unpopular opinion because I've shared it with some of my peers, and some of them been like, okay, I can kind of see that, and some people be like, no. Basically, what I'm thinking, and I could be probably seen as a little bit more radical, but this is what I think, and this is how I feel, is that in listening to the people that I had a chance to speak with and also doing my research, we're so busy trying to reform. We're trying to reform, trying to reform, trying to reform. Well, guess what? If it's broken, it gets to a point sometimes. That's just like if you have a car. You love that car, you put so much energy into that car, so much money. It gets to a point where the mechanic is like, it doesn't make sense for you to put any more money into that car. You got to get rid of the car. And I think that is something similar to this system that we currently have. When I had a chance to speak to some of older people that were around like during Jim Crow and things of that nature, and also doing the research, the purpose of the police at one point in time was to actually keep people of color out of certain neighborhoods. You also had other systemic things going on, such as redlining. I had a chance to sit down with a guy back in Rochester. He worked in the banking field when they were implementing redlining. And so when you have all these things, like say to take the police as an example, why are you trying to reform something that had ill will attached to it in the beginning? And so there's so many people that are like, we don't just want to disband the police. We don't want to do that. Listen, let me tell you something. We're not trying to do that. We're just trying to say that policing looks a little bit different. We also have other countries that I think it was like the UK. I think I told you this at one point. I love TikTok. So, you know, they were talking about, I think it was someone from the UK. They were like, our police officers don't even have guns, and their rates of crime are way lower than ours. So why is it that we can't do the same? There's several case studies where they've been able to achieve some type of homeostasis where no group feels ousted, you know what I mean? No one feels like they're getting less treatment than the other, you know what I mean? There's no senseless killings, none of that. Everything here in the United States has to be militarized for whatever reason. I don't get it. I don't understand it. And they wonder why we have so much, violence and crime. It blows my mind. So that's where my mind is of like, we can't continue to fix something that had ill will attached to it to begin with. It just doesn't make sense. We have to go back to the drawing board. But see, a lot of people are uncomfortable with doing that. And at this point, what I'm about to say is not even a color thing. You know what I mean? They've been so comfortable because they've been able to benefit from the current system that is in place. So anything that changes is going to make them feel uncomfortable. It's going to make them completely feel uncomfortable. And at this point, it's just like, We're getting to the point where this is like you hear a lot of people say, it's no longer serving us. So we have to do something different.
And
And what that looks like, I have no clue, but we have to get there.
well, like I said, it comes down to, and it takes you back to, you mentioned about the gentleman in Rochester. We we always are quick to throw it under the rug because we don't want to understand, we don't want to address it. It's too hard to address the issue. But like I said, if we keep throwing it in the face, if we keep putting it out there, I'm not saying that we're all going to sing Kumbaya next, all together or anything like that. But I think this is like I said, it's ugly, but that's how we have to get it open,
Right.
And like you said, nobody likes comfort, and nobody like talking about mental health. Look how long mental health has had a stigma, and it's still.
And I've never understood why people don't want to talk about it, because here's the thing that has always got me, and I will be completely transparent. Within my healthcare career, that job that I had back, and shout out to Anthony Jordan, that was the clinic back in Rochester. That was the absolute best job that I had, hands down. I enjoyed my patients. The patients, once we got to know each other, it was just like they felt like they can come to me for anything and everything. And I enjoyed that because they were quick to say, listen, I feel uncomfortable going to see that doctor or that nurse. Can you come in and sit down with me? Can you go ahead and you do that? And not to make a quick transition or anything like that, but these kind of elements transition over into healthcare, and they wonder why people of color have poor health outcomes. And the reason why they have poor health outcomes is because, and I hate to say this, but a lot of times the practitioner is white, and then you have a person of color who may be a poor person, may not, but they feel uncomfortable interacting with the white doctor. And of course, this doesn't go for all white doctors, but there's a lot of white doctors out there that lack empathy and emotional intelligence. So if you don't have those things, it doesn't matter what field you're in, you're not going to be successful because you're not going to be able to interface with people and be able to have an effective and productive conversation. It's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen.
And you know what? And we always end up right back to the whole conversation and communication. It's
That's
what
all
we've
it
always
is.
been talking about. Love thyself, grow thyself. You can learn to empathize with other people, and that's how we get to be better with each other. Because then you're putting yourself in another person's shoes.
Right. That's it. And that's how it comes full circle. That's exactly what. And the thing of it is that those core elements of what you just identified, of what brings us full circle, they're simple. They're simple to implement. That's the crazy thing. It's simple to implement, but for some reason, people do not want to do it. They don't want to do it. And this is what I say. It's free to be nice to somebody. It's free. It don't cost you nothing. You know what I mean? For you to be able to go out and for you to be nice, just to see. I was in Walmart the other day. Quick anecdote. I was in Walmart the other day. I was looking for a heater because it's starting to get a little cold now. Okay, but they ain't turned the heat on in my apartment yet. So, I went on to get a little space heater. And it was a lady, you could tell she worked there, and she was just like hustling. She was moving, 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 moving. So I stopped and I said, hey, do you know where the heaters are? And so she was like, it's my first day, but I'm gonna figure it out. Don't worry, I'm gonna figure it out. And I'm like, okay, all right, take your time, take your time, take your time. So then she showed me where it was. And so I was like, thank you so much. And so you could tell she was just kind of like just on 10, like how people say hyped up on 10 or whatever. And she had tears coming out her eyes, and I stopped her and I said, are you crying? Is everything okay? And she stopped and I said, just breathe, just relax and breathe. She was like, thank you so much. You know what I mean? She was like, this is my first day and I got, I'm late and all this other stuff. I said, listen, the job gonna be here, okay? The job is gonna be here. Relax. You made the effort to get here. And I said, now you here. So experience it and live in it for what it is. I said, no matter if you get any pushback or whatever, just be transparent and let them know that you was having a tough morning. I'm pretty sure they should be understanding of that. And I said, if nothing else, I said, they can come talk to me because you just helped me out. It's your first day. So I just met you and I know that you're strategic. you're forward thinking, and you're helpful. I just met you. It ain't even been 10 minutes. It ain't even been 10 minutes. And she sat there. She was like, thank you so much. I feel so much better. She was like, I appreciate, asking about how I am. No one else has asked me this morning. I said they probably aren't because they're in their own little bubble. They're worried about themselves and what they got to deal with or whatever else. I said, you just caught me on the day where I'm just chilling. It's my day off. Okay. I said, but, I hope that your day gets better. Look, it's free. It's literally free. It is free to do that, and I don't understand it. I don't understand why people can't why more people cannot do that. It's free.
Right. That's a good question, Mr. Quinn. And I also got another good question for you too.
Well, hopefully I got a good answer for you.
So, where can people find more information about what you do, your services, and how do we can connect on maybe addressing some of these issues that we all probably experiencing, we just don't know who to talk to.
Well, here's the thing. So, I'm on Instagram. It's Mr. Debonair 30. That's my username. I am going through a little bit of kind of like rebranding, so to speak, just simply because and this is what I struggle with. Maybe someone can help me out on this. Maybe I can get a lifeline. There's so many things that catch my attention and that I am very interested in, such as the life coaching. I've been doing that for a while. And then just most recently, and this is the way I work. I don't know if it's because I'm an Aquarius or if it's something else. I don't, maybe it was the way I was raised. I don't know. But there are certain things that, catch my attention. And what I do is I study and I learn it. And once I feel comfortable with my knowledge base, and I never get to a point where I think I know everything, I still try to get as much from other people. That's why I sit down, like even with this, what we're talking about right now, I've sat down and I've had the conversations, hoping to have more conversations with people who were, you know, around during Jim Crow and they know what that looks like and to be able to get that firsthand experience. And so, once I feel comfortable with my knowledge base, then I'll be able to, well, that's when I step out and I'll be like, okay, I feel comfortable being on a platform such as this to be able to kind of call some attention to it or whatever. But like I said, you can just direct them to the Instagram and they can reach out that way.
Well, of course, Mr. Quintin, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. And you know what? I always love to have you come back. Love these conversations. You're welcome to come back.
All right. Well, you listen, whenever you ask, you already know I'm there.
Thank you. And I also want to let everybody know feedback is always welcome. Email us if you have any guest or show ideas. Links will be posted in the comments. Thank you for watching. And if you're enjoying what Quintin is dropping, please give us a thumbs up. Put some comments in the down there in the box. And before you go and you're enjoying the insights, please consider hitting that subscribe button over there and take things in stride, go with the flow, and create your own path. And we'll see you back here on another episode of Coffee with Tea. So, bye-bye.
See you later.
Share with us. What was one of your takeaways from today's show? Post your answers in the comments.